Well, it's working, I think. It says I'm live. Sometimes we don't really know for sure. So if any of you are out there watching, maybe somebody can actually tell me if we are in fact live or if it's just one of those things that I think I did right. It says I'm live. It says Isogenics, or it says, all right, we've got at least one person. That's fantastic. I have never done this before. What an interesting thing. Facebook Live. Extraordinary. You know, for those of you that are interested in success, I thought today would be a good day just to have a little conversation. I don't know where I've caught you. This is in fact being recorded, so maybe you'll just have the opportunity to watch the recording again. Or maybe you should take a note or two. I'll leave that up to you. But here's what I know for sure. Most of the people that I have the opportunity to talk with, to work with, and to experience life with, if you ask them to define success, they could come up with a definition, but would it really be the direction that their life is going? I mean, after all, how many people do you personally know that are living in a body that's not behaving the way they really would like it to behave? Or how many people do you know personally that are living out of a bank account that really doesn't serve them? Or perhaps one of the more interesting questions, how many people do you know that really just don't have enough time to do the things that matter? And so, you know, success is elusive at times. You know, how do some people achieve it while other people seem to always be missing the mark? I suppose we could begin with a definition. That might be in order, but my definition might be different from yours. And so what I wanted to do this morning is just leave you or give you a recipe that I learned more years ago than I care to admit, a recipe that I've actually recorded and put into an audio program, a recipe that I've been living by, training on, sharing more times than I could possibly care to admit. And yet I'm wondering, how many of you out there still have no idea what really is happening in the world of success? So here's the formula, and that's really what it is. And a formula is no different than a recipe. It tells us what the ingredients are. It reminds us of the process or the order in which those ingredients need to go together. And then it also reminds us of time, how long it might take. The challenge, of course, is that many of us, without even thinking about it, either don't acquire a recipe. We just go into the kitchen and begin putting some ingredients together. And most of the time, that's okay. I mean, if you're just looking to make a meal and you open up the refrigerator and you're saying, well, let's see, I'd like to have some food. What are my choices? You can usually throw something together. But if you're looking to make something like, maybe a cherry pie, it doesn't really work like that. No, most people who are going to make a cherry pie will follow a recipe. They'll figure out what the ingredients are and whether or not they have them. If they don't have them, they've got to make a trip to the store. They'll put them all together in the order suggested. They'll bake it at the temperature recommended for the appointed time, because what they want is something that resembles the picture on the cover of the cookbook. How silly it would be for many of us to take a look at a recipe and say, I'm not going to use that much sugar, or I'm not going to put in eggs or salt in a pie. That seems a little silly. This recipe must be flawed. No, we would probably just follow it, assuming that it would get us to our ultimate end goal. And so what is the recipe for success? If you really wanted to boil it down, what is it? Well, it's not really so much what it is as how we get there. And that's what I want to discuss this morning, how we actually get there. So for purposes of conversation, we're going to refer to whatever is currently happening in your life as your lifestyle. Your lifestyle is where you're living, how you're living, the income that you're experiencing, the body and how it's behaving, the friends you have, whatever is going on in your world, we're going to refer to that as your lifestyle. In other words, if you would invite me over for a few days and I could just follow you around and observe, what would I observe? We'll call that your lifestyle. Now, if we paused for a moment and I could reach out to each and every one of you and say, how did you arrive at your current location in time? I don't mean the number of days, weeks, months, or years you've been on this spinning planet. What I'm talking about primarily is, why are you living in the home that you're living in? Why are you driving the car, or why do you own the cars that you have? What is it about the clothing that you're choosing for yourself that works for you? What is it about the income that you're producing or providing for your family? How did that come about? Some people went to university and acquired degrees and they're still using them. Others went to university and acquired degrees and they've long ago abandoned them. And there are people out there like me, no kidding, who never even graduated from high school. So, we really can't say that it's just formal education. In fact, one of my mentors years ago, a man by the name of Jim Rohn, talked about formal education would make you a living, but self-education would make you a fortune. But what does that actually mean? Well, first of all, we have to decide if our current lifestyle is serving us, and that's a personal decision for you. You can look at whatever areas of life matter to you. For me, I look at about 7. I look at the spiritual side of my life and how that's working for me. I look at the family side of my life and how that's working for me. I look at the financial side of my life, the fun side, the social side, the cultural side. I look at the business side. I look at these varying aspects of my life and I ask myself, how am I doing? That's my current lifestyle, wherever I am. But how did I get here? How did you get to where you currently are? And maybe more importantly, if it's not serving us in some capacity, how do we make an adjustment or a change? Let me give you the formula. Number 1 is what we call philosophy. Philosophy could also be stated as your attitude or your opinion. It's what you know and what you believe to be true. Now, your philosophy or your attitude or your opinion was usually created or produced by your environment. I know a lot of us would like to think that we're original thinkers. The crazy part is, what you know and believe to be true is influenced more by who you've spent time around than almost any other single factor. In fact, they asked people in America a few years back if they professed to be Christian. It wasn't a survey about religion. It was just a survey to find out how people had arrived at a particular conclusion. They only took the people that said yes, and they asked them a follow-up question. How did you come to hold your current beliefs? Here's the crazy part. 97% of the people who professed to be Christian had professed to be Christian because, number 1, they were raised in that religion, or number 2, their best friends were. Only 3% of those people had actually taken the time to study on their own and reach a reasonable decision for them. And is pretty much the case with almost everything else we find in life. When you think about your views on just about anything, aren't they influenced by your environment? It really is true. So your philosophy, what you know and believe to be true, really is where everything begins. Now that philosophy, that affects our attitude, which is the second bullet point. So our philosophy, everything we know and believe to be true, affects what we think about, our attitude. So here's a question. What are you thinking about all day long? From the time you woke up this morning until the time you will retire this evening, what are the thoughts that are streaming through your mind almost nonstop? What are you thinking about? What's actually going on? I see Price joining us, and if you follow Price on Facebook, sometimes don't we wonder, what's going on? What's that guy actually thinking about? Diane's watching. Diane's very different. What's Diane thinking about? Maybe not what Price is thinking about, unless, of course, she saw his post, and then maybe she's wondering, what's Price really thinking about? It is really crazy that what we know and believe to be true dictates what we think about all day long. Researchers tell us that those thoughts running through our mind are more powerful than the people we associate with. And that if we could actually hook a USB to our brain and have it spit out what we're actually saying about ourselves, here's the crazy part. Most of what we're saying is not even very kind. So philosophy, what you know and believe to be true, drives your attitude, what you think about all day long. Now, your attitude influences your actions. After all, we don't tend to act on things we don't know about, nor do we believe them to be true. I'll give you an example. In 2003, scientists finished mapping the human genome. How many of you read that report? How many of you are aware that according to science and according to the mapping of the human genome, which by the way they only completed in 2003, that humans cannot process corn? Some of you already knew that, but has that affected your thinking? Are you waking up in the morning saying, can't process corn? What are you talking about? You mean no cornbread, no corn powder, no corn starch, no cornmeal, nor corn on the cob? What are you talking about? No corn? What about all the corn they're feeding the cows? Don't get me started. I'm not the one who mapped the human genome, and I'm not the one who reached the conclusion that the humans cannot process corn. You want to do your own little scientific or not so scientific research, go get yourself some corn. Enjoy it. Chew it repetitively. And then the following day, well, you get the idea. You'll think, I thought I chewed better than that. We can't process corn. Does that really matter to most of us? And the answer is no, because it doesn't affect our philosophy. We don't know it or we don't believe it to be true, so we really don't think about it. And as a result of not thinking about it, our actions remain the same. But nevertheless, we're not going to change that our philosophy, what we know and believe to be true, does affect our attitude. Our attitude does affect our actions, and our actions affect our results. So think about that. What you know, you think about. And what you think about, you act upon. That's really how we begin moving forward, or we don't. I mean, if someone told you you're shy and you believe that to be true, and you're thinking all the time, I can't go approach this individual because I'm shy, isn't that going to affect the way you act in the marketplace? And the answer is, of course. If someone has suggested to you from infancy, hey, you can do that, you can do anything, we believe in you, and you grow up with that confidence, isn't it true that you're probably thinking differently than someone who was told their whole life they were shy? And don't your actions today suggest that you have a different process for going out and trying new things than the person who's always holding back? You know, it really is crazy at how simple this philosophy is, and yet how few people actually understand the connection between what we know and believe to be true, our thoughts, what we're thinking about from the time we wake up in the morning until the time we retire in the evening, and our actions. Here's the crazy part. Those actions, they produce our results. Now, results, what are they? Results are simply what we get. They're just what we get from the actions that we've taken, from the thoughts that we've had, from what began as a philosophy, an opinion, what we knew and believed to be true. So our philosophy drives our attitude, our actions, our results, and our results show up in our lifestyle. Now, there's the recipe, but let's talk about it for a moment and let's discuss why so many people are working it the wrong way and they're not getting the results they want. In fact, I'll give you an example. Here within our company, we do these 90-day blocks of time. So we set aside a period of about 3 months, and we really focus on the fundamentals of sharing what we know and believe to be true with others that we feel might have an interest. Now, we have a plan for this, and we do the best that we can to follow that plan. It doesn't always work out the way we hoped, but at least we're moving in the right direction. So at the end of that 90 days, what were our results? Well, our results show up in our lifestyle, the income that we're earning, the body that we're living in, all of those things show up. But how did we actually get there? You see, here's what most people are doing. And if you've got this list in front of you, either physically or mentally, let me back up and again just remind you. So what you should have is number one, philosophy, everything you know and believe to be true. And that should be driving your attitude, what you think about all day long. Your attitude shows up in your actions, what you're doing. Your actions produce your results, what you're getting. And what you're getting over time is your lifestyle, good, bad, or otherwise. So if you don't like where you currently are, what do most people do? And here's where they absolutely miss the mark. Most people, and let's just take a really classic example, it's around New Year's and everybody's thinking about New Year's resolutions. And what's the number one New Year's resolution each and every year? You probably know. It's getting back into shape and primarily losing weight. It's number one every single year. We've got more ways to do it than you can shake a stick at. We've got more books written upon it you could possibly imagine. We've got more so-called experts than we've ever had in the history of the world. And yet every single year, it's the same thing. My number one New Year's resolution, lose a few pounds. So what ends up happening around February, March, April, May, June, July, here we are in August, the tail end of August. What's happened to that New Year's resolution? Most of us may not even remember having made it. True, What we knew and believed to be true, our philosophy was, hey, I'd like to be in a better body. So we thought about it for a while, and our actions affected what we did, and our results were there, and of course our lifestyle. Why don't we end up in the better body? Here's why. Because most of us that are living in a body that isn't working are only going up a couple of notches on this little recipe. We're not refining what we know and believe to be true. What we're doing is we're engaging in actions. Now think about this for a moment. This is a really critical part. We're increasing our activity. In theory, our activity, more or different, will produce a different result. And that result will affect our lifestyle. Now, we could say, well, wait a minute. Let's say I'm not working out and I want to get in better shape. Wouldn't me just making a decision to get in better shape and signing up for a membership at a gym, Orange Theory or whatever, wouldn't that just be enough? Sure. If you go, and if you go consistently, and if you follow the plan and stick to it, and if you're not trying to work out and then come home and eat a pizza, sure. Over time, increased activity should produce an increased result, which should show up in your lifestyle. So why doesn't that work? Because we've missed the point. We've not gone back and refined our philosophy. And so for us within the context of our company, what we're doing is we have to remind people doing more is not always the answer. It's a good start, but it's not always the answer. Because if all you're doing is doing more, hoping to get a better result from doing more, but at the end of the month, all you end up is tired, you're probably just going to lay down on the couch and quit. No, what we need is to refine our philosophy. So what do we know and believe to be true about the profession we're in? What do we know and believe to be true about the company we're representing? What do we know and believe to be true about the activities we're engaging in? What do we know and believe to be true about those things? We have to refine what we know and believe to be true. And often, in fact, most of the time, we have to actually alter what our thoughts are, which is going to originate in our mind if we want a better outcome. That's where the concept, and you've probably heard this before, of personal development comes into play. Personal development, though, is very different than business development. And sometimes we use them interchangeably, or oftentimes we don't talk about business development in the proper context, which it should be, separately. Business development is going to work on the skills you need to do your job. If you happen to be in the same profession that I'm in, those skills involve finding people to talk to, talking to the people you find, and teaching and training those who want to say yes, how they can do the same. If you happen to be a surgeon, those skills are very different. Your business development is going to be very different. If you happen to be someone who's a pilot for a commercial airline company, your skills are going to be very different. You're not looking to see who's going to be on your plane. You're not responsible for filling the manifest of passengers. That's someone else's responsibility. You have a different skill set. You have a different philosophy, driving a different attitude, producing a different action, which creates a different result to produce your lifestyle. But we still have to ask ourselves, if it's not working, what do we do to change it? So what are the skills that you need for your business? If you're not succeeding, in other words, if you've given it enough time, but your lifestyle is not working out the way you'd like it to be, you've just got to ask yourself, what do I know and believe to be true about my skill set? Within, again, my profession, what do I know and believe to be true about reaching out to other people? Am I doing something that's appropriate or inappropriate? Do I know how to do it, or do I need to learn the new skill? What are my skills as it comes to following up? Am I comfortable doing that, or does it just make me feel a little uneasy, like maybe somehow I'm manipulating or taking advantage of my friends? We hear some really crazy things within our profession. Oh, I don't want to do this with my friends. Really? Question. When the new Star Wars movie came out, did you call your friends and say, we're going to go see the movie, do you want to come? Or did you think, wait a minute, now hold on, if I invite Bill and Sue to come with me, they're going to have to get a sitter. And a sitter is going to cost them, $50, $60, $70. And, we're probably going to get something before the movie and maybe go to the movie, get something at the movie, and maybe after the movie. My goodness, I'm asking them to give up a whole evening of their life and spend $100 or $150. I can't take advantage of my friends. Maybe I should just go to the movie alone. Is that really how you think? Probably not. We could say the same thing about a restaurant, could we not? If a new restaurant opens, you say, I can't take advantage of my friends. Suggest to them we go out to eat, enjoy fine conversation, and hopefully a good meal. I can't do that. I'll wait for them to ask me. Yes, if they ask me about the new restaurant, I'd be happy to go, but I can't ask them. Is that how we behave? No, the answer is no. We share information that we feel is accurate based on our philosophy. But if you don't have that philosophy, you need to go to work refining it. You need to take in new, accurate information that can help give you a different perspective on what it is that you're actually doing. So, our philosophy, everything we know and believe to be true, affects what we think about, our attitude. Those thoughts affect our actions, what we actually do. And those actions produce our results, what we get from what we've done, from what we thought, from what we knew and believed to be true. And of course, that always shows up in our lifestyle. So if something isn't working for you, please don't take the shortcut. Don't just do more of what hasn't been getting you the right results. You have to go all the way to the top of the chart. And you've got to ask yourself, what do I know and believe to be true? If we were talking about your body, it would be the same thing. What do I know and believe to be true about my diet? What do I know and believe to be true about my requirements for protein? What do I know and believe to be true about tilapia? Look that one up when we're finished, and you'll understand that my philosophy, what I know and believe to be true, may be very different from yours. If I'm at a restaurant and they're serving tacos and I ask what kind of meat the tacos have and they say, oh, it's tilapia, it's delicious. I don't say anything to them, but I also don't order the food. I would never put that in my body. How about you? What's your philosophy when it comes to tilapia? What's your philosophy when it comes to healthy eating? Are you one of those individuals that believes all you need to do is just eat clean? You know, one of the cleanest eaters I know is a man named Dr. Michael Colgan. He lives on the wayward side, so he gets the good sea breeze on Salt Spring Island. That's off the coast of Vancouver Island in British Columbia, Canada. Probably one of the most beautiful places on earth. They grow their own food. They only eat organic. This is a guy who's been teaching and training athletes for 50 years. Colgan regularly cleanses his body to get the impurities out, even though he's only eating clean. But if you pick up his book, and again, what would this be? This would be a refinement in your philosophy. It would get you to open your mind to the possibilities that what you thought you knew may not actually be the truth. I know that may come as a surprise to some of you, but hey, let's face it. If I turn on CNN after the presidential election or debate or whatever it happens to be, they already have an opinion. If I switch over to Fox News, they already have an opinion. And here's the crazy thing. I may not be the brightest bulb in the lamp, but I can pretty much tell what their opinion is going to be before I even switch to the channel. How could I be getting accurate information when I already know what they're going to say? Most of you living in this country in America know exactly what I'm talking about. Those of you that are watching from other parts of the world, it's probably not that far removed there either. You know that certain parties have certain programs that basically are kind of for them, and certain ones kind of not so much. They're for the opposition. Where's the truth? Well, again, back to my story with Dr. Michael Colgan. So here's a guy living in this pristine place on planet Earth. He understands human physiology. He teaches and trains athletes and has been for a number of years. He's written untold numbers of books. He used to write for Muscular Development, Fitness, and Health. The guy's in his 70s and can do one-arm pull-ups and one-arm push-ups. Look him up online. And then let me just kind of leave you with this thought regarding the story. So Dr. Colgan writes a book entitled The Anti-Inflammatory Athlete at Any Age. And he talks about cleansing. And in that particular book, he talks about his own body and how eating clean, only organic, wild fish, and so on and so forth, eating all of that, he still has his sweat tested for toxins. And it came back with more than 40, that's 40, more than 40 different toxins in his sweat. Can you imagine what it would have looked like if he lived in Los Angeles and had to breathe that air? Or if he lived in some of the other industrialized cities where when you fly in, there's that gray haze? He doesn't have a gray haze where he lives. He's not eating the food from the typical grocery store. He knows what to do with his body, and he's cleansing 40 toxins. The crazy part is most of us have been taught by our environment about what is or is not working for us. But what it really comes down to is not my opinion or your opinion. It really comes down to how you feel. Because look, we're all going to make choices as we move through life. And my getting on this little Facebook Live thing this morning and chatting with all of you is not really about trying to convince you that my ideas might be superior or more interesting than yours. That wouldn't be a very smart thing for me to do. We're all individuals, and we all have the opportunity to choose. But I have a little assignment for some of you that are open and willing to take it. And I think that if you will actually just humor me and perhaps provide a little interesting insight yourself, you might really understand today's message. That what we know and believe to be true, our philosophy or our opinion, does indeed affect our attitude, what we think about all day long. And those actions show up, or those attitudes rather, those thoughts show up in our actions. Those actions, or sometimes the inaction, which in and of itself is an action. I mean, deciding to lay on the couch and watch television is an action step. Even though you might suggest you're not doing anything, you really are doing something. You're sitting on the couch watching television. That's an action step that was sparked by a thought that originated as a philosophy, what you knew and believed to be true. Maybe you can't miss your favorite team playing this week. That's okay. That's your philosophy. Others have a philosophy, I'll record the game, and maybe I'll watch it later. Different philosophy, and both call themselves fans. Maybe you're making or understanding my point. So again, our philosophy, what we know and believe to be true, drives our attitude. What we think about, our attitude drives our actions, what we do. What we do produces our results, and our results shows up in our lifestyle. So here's the little assignment. I have 3 questions that I would like for you to Google, and I would like for you to search for the truth. What is the truth? Is it subjective or is it absolute? Some truth is subjective. You know, is wild salmon something that you would enjoy having for dinner? What's the truth? You may say, I just don't like fish. Or I've had salmon before. I've even had wild salmon prepared a lot of different ways. It's just not my thing. I'm not going to do it. Have no interest in that. Okay, fair enough. So truth for you in that particular context might be or might just not be absolute. It might just be kind of a matter of opinion. But if you put everybody on the top of the Empire State Building and had them start walking off the top of the balcony, one person after the next, there is no question about what some may experience and others maybe not so much. Because truth there is absolute. It's called gravity. It's a law. It's going to affect 100% of the people the same way. So what am I asking you to what am I asking you to search out? The truth on these 3 statements. Here they are. You've got to Google these exactly as they are if you really want to understand today's message. Question number 1. Is marriage a good idea? So go to Google as soon as we're finished and type that in. Is marriage a good idea? And take a look at all of the information. Or take a look at enough of the information until perhaps you understand the point. The last time I looked, the very first link said 10 reasons you should get married. The link right below it said 13 reasons no one should ever marry. And so on and so forth, the contradictions went. Here's the second question. Is religion a good idea? Go ahead. When we're finished, Google it and see if you can come up with the truth. And here's the reason. Because my profession, what I have so dearly enjoyed for the past 30 years, is the profession of network marketing. But go ahead and Google this. Is network marketing a good idea? Just make sure you Google it last. Because what you will find is that the information online is just as controversial as whether or not we should marry or believe in anything. It's crazy. But here's what I want you to really understand, and this goes back to environment. When you Google those, and I really do hope you will, when you Google, is marriage a good idea? Notice your behavior. Is your eye naturally gravitating toward the links that support your philosophy? I mean, after all, if you think marriage is a good idea, don't you find yourself looking at those first and avoiding the others? Don't you find yourself discounting the ones that are counterintuitive to your personal beliefs? When you go to, is religion a good idea? If you think it's a bad idea, where did your eye go? If you think it's a good idea, where did your eye go? And so too with the profession that I so dearly love. Where does your eye go when you Google, is network marketing a good idea? Where does your eye go? Listen. I don't need to live in your body. Only you do. And I don't need to live out of your bank account. Only you do. I don't wake up in your home. I don't drive your vehicles. I don't profess to understand nor to believe what you profess to understand nor to believe. Because I understand that we've got people watching this from all over the world. And most of us have had our philosophy refined by our environment. It's crazy, but it's also very true. So let me just leave you with this point. The litmus test for you, not for me, not for any of the other people that are watching, not for Elaine. Hey, welcome. I see you popping in over there from London. That's fantastic. It's so nice to see you again, at least there. It's not for any of us individually. It's for us. It's not for any of us collectively. It's for us individually is what I'm trying to say. So here's the litmus test. How's life working for you? Find the areas that matter. If the spiritual aspect of your life matters, how's that working for you? If the physical part of your body matters, how's that working for you? If the family matters to you, and that's different for everyone, certainly at different moments in time, how's that working for you? What about fun? All work and no play, not so good. How's that working for you? How about your career, your job, what you're doing to provide financially for your family? How's that working for you? Just take inventory on the things that matter to you and just be honest and ask yourself, how is this working for me? And if you want it to improve, be open to the possibility that what I've shared with you this morning might actually be the solution you've been looking for. That if you just went up a couple of levels and you just did more, you did more to the body or more to the business or more to the bank account, you just did more to produce a different result, to create a different lifestyle, that may not be sustainable. What you really need to do is go clear to the top of this list. And what you really need to do is think to yourself, what do I know and actually believe to be true? And where did those philosophies originate? And is it possible, just possible, that I need to refine them? Maybe because of new information. Maybe because they've never been valid. After all, there was a period in time years ago when historically there were a number of people, I don't know exactly how many, I suppose that's subjective, but there were a number of people that believed the earth was flat. Here's the problem. It never was flat. Not even for a moment in time. It's always been a circle. It isn't going to change. So just because lots of people believe that doesn't change reality. There was also a number of years ago when most people believed that the earth was at the center of the universe and the sun moved around the earth. Now, they had all the evidence they needed to support themselves back then. They saw the sun making its trek across the sky every day. It doesn't feel like we're moving here. It just doesn't. So if you don't feel like you're moving, but you can clearly see evidence of the sun moving every single day, and there's no telescopes, we didn't have the ability to send people into space, what would be a reasonable conclusion to reach? We must be in the center, and the sun must be moving around us. Here's the problem. It's never been true. Ever. Is it possible that you're holding on to some beliefs that have also never been true, that aren't serving you? That really is up to you to uncover and to see if you want to alter or change them. But one word of caution as we kind of wrap this up this morning. Be careful who you seek out as a so-called expert that can help you. Because most of the people that are out there in the marketplace are really just trying to put across their belief. And so Jim Rohn, that gentleman I mentioned years ago, he left me with a very interesting thought. I'll leave it with you as well. Jim said, read all of the books, take all of the classes, and then make up your own mind. Now, that was a metaphor. Jim certainly wasn't saying go to the Library of Congress in the United States and read 1 million books and sign up for every seminar known to mankind, and as soon as you have absolutely found truth, then follow it. You wouldn't live long enough to accomplish that. But here's what we want to avoid. Reading a book from a person and then following that course without ever wondering, is this actually true? There are too many people within my profession that will suggest things to audiences they've actually never done. Crazy, but very true. If you happen to be within the space of networking, let me give you the best advice I possibly can. Within the context of your own company, you have leaders. You have individuals that have been working what you're doing what you're doing for days, weeks, months, or years more than you. And they have, hopefully, a higher level of success. Learn from them. Find out what they are actually doing. Follow their advice. I guess you could say, decide what you want. Find the people that actually have it. Find out what they did. Do that and continue until you get the same result. Because I'll promise you, life can be so interesting when we feel like we're moving in the right direction. By contrast, it can be so frustrating when we wake up every morning and we're not sure what we're supposed to do next. Take the most important area in your life and go to work and ask yourself, what do I know and believe to be true about this area? And then open your mind to the possibilities of taking in new, accurate information from the source. I'm not going to go online and talk to people who don't like network marketing and ask them all about the profession. That would just be silly. That would be like me wanting to learn about jewelry, specifically gems or precious stones, and maybe even more specifically, diamonds. If I really wanted to understand diamonds, maybe to either acquire them or for purposes of investment or any other interest I might have, but I really wanted to know diamonds, how well served would I be to study the stock market, or to talk to a financial advisor, or to talk to people that were selling gold bullion, or to talk to individuals that would like me to invest in oil or real estate? How well served do you think I would be to talk to people that would suggest investing in anything is just a bad idea? No, if I want to understand diamonds, wouldn't I be the most served if I actually sought out people in the profession of the diamond industry? Wouldn't I be well served to find out who those people are and what they know? And then find the people that are really sharing relevant information by contrasting and comparing? It really is crazy how simple that is. But as we grow and refine our philosophy, let's make sure we're getting it from accurate sources that are within the space, that are teaching what they're actually doing, and that we follow what we're learning to see if we get a predictable result. But always keep in mind as you move through time the following formula. I promise you it will serve you well if you treat it as that recipe I mentioned earlier. But if you take a look at this and you say, well, cherry pie, it says to get cooking cherries. I don't have those. I have regular cherries. What difference would it make? It says to put in eggs. I don't have eggs. I have egg beaters. I'm sure it's about the same. Liquid, eggs, can't be that much different. I'll just put those in. It said to use white sugar. A lot of white sugar. White sugar's not healthy. You know what? I'm going to put in brown sugar. No, I tell you what. I'm going to put in wild honey. Yes, wild organic honey. That's what I'm going to use. I'm going to have the most amazing cherry pie you've ever tasted. And salt? What's the deal with salt? I know it's not much, but that can't be right. Somebody must have made an error in this. I'll just leave that out. You get the idea. What you would be doing, usually if you're like most people, is blaming the person who put together the recipe, even though the blame would squarely lie with us. So here's the formula. Number one, everything we know and believe to be true is what we call our philosophy. That philosophy or our opinion drives what we think about all day long, our attitude. Those thoughts, they show up in what we actually do or don't do, which remember, either way, it's an action step. And those actions, well, they produce the results that we're either getting or we're not getting. And that ultimately shows up in our lifestyle. The body we're living in, the bank account we're living from, and the time we either do or do not have to enjoy them both. The litmus test, remember, is if the lifestyle is suggesting we don't like where we are, then we just can't do more. It's not about jumping up 2 notches on the recipe and just doing more, hoping to get a better result to produce a better lifestyle. That doesn't work for most people. What we have to do is jump all the way to the top of the recipe and ask ourselves, what is it that I know and ultimately believe to be true? And if we realize that what we know and believe to be true may not necessarily be accurate, might not ever been accurate, or might simply need to be refined, then seek out those that are within our space, that are actively doing or engaging and getting the results we actually want. Find those people, ask for advice or help, and when you find it, if it is different, you might question it, but if you find that it seems reasonable, you might also just try it. And over time, you will begin to recognize the things that work for you when it comes to your body, when it comes to your business, and when it comes to your bank account. I'm telling you, it's a really simple formula that has served me well over time. So if any of this has been beneficial, hopefully you'll leave a comment or two. I know there's a lot of comments going on down below. This is kind of the first for me. And it's interesting. If you've ever done a Facebook Live, it's interesting trying to look in the little tiny lens of the camera, because that's where you're reminded everyone is, as opposed to the natural tendency to look at yourself. And then you're also supposed to remember to keep your thoughts and move forward with all of that information as you're looking down and you're talking to all of the people that are there. Maybe I'll get better over time. So if I missed you, and it would appear I missed a lot of you, there's Mike jumping on. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. But if I missed some of you, I apologize for that. But I'm glad that you shared some of this. And if you just jumped on now and you didn't hear all of this, I'm telling you, if where you're living and how you're experiencing life is not working for you, go back and really take this in and recognize that everything we know and believe to be true, usually environmental, can be altered, shifted, or improved. I don't eat corn anymore, and I'm okay with that. I try to put things in my body that serve me well. Every once in a while, that might be a little bite of a piece of cheesecake. But I know when I'm doing that I'm also not deluding myself into thinking, hey, there's some protein here. This is probably okay. And it's, banana cheesecake. That's fruit, right? So I'm getting my fruit, my protein, and carbohydrates. Certainly there's some carbohydrates in there. This is actually pretty good. This is almost like a full meal. I should do this again. No, that would be something that if that were my opinion, I might need to refine my philosophy. Anyway, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to see if I can figure out now how to shut this thing off. Apparently there's a button I'm supposed to push, and we'll see what happens next. Enjoy your day wherever you are, and I hope this material will help you as much as it has helped me over time.